Well, welcome everyone. 2 o'clock, so we're starting in a timely way. And let me say, well, first let me introduce myself for those who only are used to getting my emails or seeing me fly by, or we haven't had an opportunity to collaborate directly. I'm Felice Levine, your executive director. I'm joined on my left, and I think live and on screen, Nathan Bell, who's our Director of Governance and Special Projects. And so this is both a governance activity and a special project, if we ever saw one. And at my immediate left in our convening room, conference room, Badud Acharya, who's our IT systems administrator and expert, who's been involved in all of the planning for both our meeting that would have been place-based with respect to the integration of technology, and certainly doing double time for the transformation of our meeting to a virtual conference. So this is our second opportunity. There might be some of you who are on the phone with our SIG leadership phone call yesterday in the late afternoon. This is our second opportunity. I did say there, if there's a, both a need and an interest for a possible third opportunity as things kind of move along. And just as our decision making moved along with respect to ultimately no longer holding a place-based meeting in San Francisco rather rapidly, so many things are moving along rather rapidly. We started, Robert Smith and I, our director of meetings, and others on staff, and Vanessa Sidwell-Walker, knowing that we were thinking about this, talking about the various as-if possibilities, just knowing what was then pretty localized in mainland China and in Japan, but recognizing, and we happily are part of a broader scientific and scholarly community where we recognize and learn through a lot of internal briefings and discussions what it means to potentially have a pandemic and what the nature of this virus is, the unknown nature of it, the invisible nature of it, the absence of sufficient testing for those who may be experiencing it already invisibly. We learned well before the mayor's declaration that San Francisco Airport was barring travel from certain countries. That was already having Italy on the map, and so from our first two emails indicating that we were examining this, we were vigilant, we were paying attention to the guidance. The second email that said we were, and letting you all know that we were proactively exploring options, which actually had started in what I call, or kind of what we call this room, we call it the peace room, because we're here to bring some peace to in the midst of emergencies. But I suppose Vanessa calls it the situation room. We have a situation, we have an opportunity. We have a world that is challenged, and we're trying to create a new form of annual meeting, or a new form of virtual convening that will be the 2020 annual meeting that has really never existed before, and that we're going to be offering that as an entirely free product. As I hope everyone knows by now, every hotel reservation made through our hotel reservation service was canceled by that service. No one has any encumbrance. There will all the registration fees will be returned, and we hope to open the portal that will go out to all registrants, and they will have the option to. They will also have the option, if they're in courses or want to take one of 9 courses that we're going to be offering, to opt in or opt out. And different people have different packages. Not only are there different registration fees at different levels of membership, different between non-members and members, and between student members and regular members, registered members and regular members. And then there's also some other degree of packages. We've gotten lots of requests for can we keep their money? Can we keep money? And of course, that would be a big help. This is not, this is a big hit for AERA financially to not have a place-based meeting. We have lots of costs and no revenue because we're returning essentially all the revenue. And then to do this virtual meeting is AERA's digging into its deep pocket. But we want to do that. We want to do that with, it's a collaborative effort. And as you probably heard me say or read, that's the spirit of this. This is something we're doing together. And why we schedule these SIG calls is because, you know, you're at the heart of our community. You know, we have divisions that also embrace the largest kind of ways of segmenting the arenas of research that constitute the field of education research. But you give that voice in the detailed arenas, the specialty areas, the cutting edge areas that both drive what we do and on the backbone of you know, substantial parts of the annual meeting. So this call is really both to, you know, to answer your questions, help to reinvent together, brief you, listen, and we want to cover, as you saw, some things on the agenda. But you know, but we see this as a real iterative process. And I'm going to skip for the moment what the virtual meeting will look like, and just say that will open in real time. I'm going to tell you in a moment what that will look like, but that will open in real time and run from April 17th to April 21st. Then April 22nd through the 26th, we will be offering 9 of the professional development courses, both by Zoom for those who registered or want to register. If one registered and prefers not, although we've offered some number of courses even at the annual meeting with virtual participants who participate in the Q&A and can ask questions and be as on the spot as those in the room at some hotel. And so that's not an unfamiliar motif, but some may have signed up for the course who prefer not to do it that way. They'll be able to get a refund. We hope more who weren't going to do it place-based from around the world, every continent, every northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere might choose to do so. So those will be offered in 4-hour modules over 5 days, and then Monday the 28th through May 1st.
27th to May 1st.
27th to May 1st, we're going to have, so this is really germane to you all. We want those of you who have business meeting plans, want to hold business meetings, have not only the business to interact with your members, but also some confer your awards at that location. Some have a brief talk from somebody who won an award or won an award last year. There's all kinds of permutations of what SIG business meetings look like and the 12 division meetings look like. We won't have them in the April 17th to 21st slot for at least 3 reasons. One is we're going to be delivering so much in real time that we need monitoring and staffing and supporting so that goes smoothly, that we're going to be running Pacific time, but our preparation is going to start about 8 in the morning for openings that are really 8 in the morning our time, even though the Eastern time opening is 11. We're going to have our technology experts here. We'll be running until essentially the 6:05 slot, which is 9:05. We are less than sure that the Pacific time is optimal for each of your SIGs to do the business meeting at what might be East Coast 9:05, with, in theory, some people participating in and attending these sessions, hopefully lots and lots of people. So we concluded that it would be better for each SIG, knowing the composition of where your leadership resides and where your membership resides, and if anybody needs to have more detailed information of the countries in which the mailing addresses of your membership, we can, we can generate that report if it's not an online tool already, that you'll pick your time, you'll schedule it in this grid. We can't do more than 20 simultaneously and staff you well, and that will be recorded live as your business meeting, and then that'll be available as a post-production product on our 2020 virtual annual meeting conference. So that, I suppose, is anticipating one of the most frequently asked questions from SIG leaders. I think we got a pretty good response yesterday that would sort of, meet the needs. I suppose any SIG that doesn't wish to have a business meeting, I think all of your bylaws require some business meeting. So I'd say the easiest thing is to do it that week. Because we'll support you. It'll be probably as good as any other time. You'll be able to recraft your agendas to meet your need. It won't be the same time that you want to attend sessions or will be participating in sessions. But just as AERA has, as a nonprofit incorporated association, that we must hold an annual business meeting each year. And we will have that as one of the general sessions. I suppose we need to also reaffirm that with divisions, some of whom might have been thinking about other times, that there needs to be a time in this calendar year to do it. And I think this is probably the best option, because we'll provide it. It'll be part of the ultimate asset. It'll be reproducible, and it'll be branded as your business meeting for the meeting, and will certainly help with any, reports in terms of auditing of the association, that indeed each of our units had their constituted meeting. So we need to be sure that there is a constituted meeting. So let me ask Nathan to cover awards and the training, and then I'll say a little bit about what the virtual, I know many of you probably have heard aspects of it, but what the virtual platform that we're really creating can deliver.
Before I answer or talk about the awards and the trainings, there have been several questions. Can you just repeat those dates again for the virtual meeting, the professional development, and the business meetings?
Yeah, so the virtual meeting is when the meeting was scheduled. And that is April 17th to April 21st. The 9 courses that will be delivered at a time to be set will span 5 days, from the 22nd of April to the 26th of April, which I believe is a Saturday. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
So starting on the 28th through what I was told was May 1. Is that a Friday?
May 1 is a Friday, yes.
The 28th to May 1, we will create a grid. We will ask each SIG chair to indicate when you wish to schedule your business meeting. It will be in the grid and will offer a wide span of time. And essentially they are hour and a half. I think they're all hour and a half now. You can pick your own time. It does not need to comport to the specific time in the program now. It will be a different date and time. It'll be a part of the online virtual platform. We'll say SIG business meetings, and we'll open up to a list of the SIGs and your business meeting time. We may then, we have to think through whether to calibrate it to Pacific time, but you will be picking the time that you wish in a grid, and we can accommodate up to 20 Zoom. Accommodate, what I mean by that is there can be many, many more Zoom calls at the same time, but we want to be able to have our technical additional consultants and staff, assuming that staff remains healthy and accessible, that we don't want to do more than 20 at the same time, so that there's at least one technical person for every 3 or 4 meetings. And that each chair will be able to, if there's a glitch, you'll be able to send us a message in sort of command central here, and we'll be able to help you out. And we'll be able to provide guidance on how to do that well too, for those of you who've done less virtual group calls. Another reason why we want to separate it is to support it well and to make sure that members just aren't, kind of too tired of going to another session, and that these are really important. So we want to elevate the importance of the SIG business meeting and the division business meeting.
Thank you, Felice. And just to, I know there's a couple questions. Everything that Felice is saying will be also sent to you in writing via email on the web. So more information will be coming. In terms of
we'll have special fact sheets for the leadership, for division leadership and SIG leadership, because you have, part of why we're doing these dedicated group calls is that there are issues that are on your minds and you're experiencing that just a presenter or a attendee would not be preoccupied with.
So in terms of the awards, any award, AERA approved award that was sent to me by the 15th deadline or shortly thereafter, any award that we have will be, instead of presented in person and picked up in person, will be mailed to the recipient. So whether that's a certificate or a plaque, or for those with accompanying checks, all of those materials will be mailed to the individual receiving the award. For those of you who did not yet provide an electronic signature for the certificate or the plaque, I will be, or someone will be reaching out to you within the next week or so to ask that you send us an electronic signature. We'll provide all the details in writing about what it is we need, how it is it needs to be sent to us, and examples of what that is. You'll send us that electronic signature, and the certificate or the plaque will be printed with your signature on it, so we don't have to have that extra mailing step. And then once the certificate and plaque are ready, with the check, will be mailed to the recipient. If you typically present these awards during your business meeting, then you can use your virtual business meeting and do some sort of reimagined presentation of the award to the recipients. If your business meeting is an occasion for the recipient to give a brief talk or to present their paper, that is an opportunity again to do so. So it just changes the format, but it doesn't change what it is that you would be doing. The other thing I wanted to mention was you all have attended probably and have heard about the training sessions that we do for, first of all, for new SIG officers. We do typically 2 of those sessions at the place-based annual meeting. We also do trainings for individuals who will be serving as webmasters. And there is also training for program chairs on how to use our all academic system. So all of those 3 types of trainings will occur. They will not occur, however, during this 3-week period that Felice just outlined. We think really it's probably best to decouple them at this time and do Zoom sessions. We'll do multiples of each of these, so probably 3 for the leadership sessions, for example. And we'll have the training will take place with the same content. It'll just be delivered via our Zoom platform. We'll be in touch to publicize the dates of all of those trainings. And we're thinking right now that will probably be during the month of May for all of those trainings.
And the webmaster trainings too will be that time.
Correct.
And I think Baduk, do you do that? Yes, Baduk does that. So, and there'll be multiple. And so that the groups should be small enough that there can be chat. There won't be visual view of those who aren't presenting, but they should be small enough that we can entertain chat discussions. So we'll have it moderated to both. Right now we're using the Q&A modality, but for the smaller group, if we're talking about 40 in a session, then we can monitor chat or Q&A. And then they'll be available. I don't know. I suppose we put it somewhere on SIG tools or something. They'd be available for post viewing for SIG leadership. And, as part of the guidance. And each of these, just I want to underscore, in everything that we do, we hope we are both accessible and user-friendly, but we created that, we separated we created, I guess now, 2 years ago, we created a separate email box for SIGs, separated for governance, so that we can have a more proximal, whether anyone saw that as the signal we meant, it was because we get, you can only imagine, we get any number of committees and committee members and committee appointments and awards and division issues, but the SIGs are the largest units or unit structure. So we created the SIG email box so that we were always able to be on top of and responsive, and that it wouldn't just be part of, you know, incoming threaded emails. And so, so that, you know, that's a portal that you should use. And Nathan is engaged in paying attention to them both, and we're a little bit shy on support staff right at the moment, but support staff is equally engaged in being sure that we don't skip a step. Any other questions there I should be alert to?
Sure. Can you clarify again? There've been a couple questions about whether the business meetings will be via our Zoom platform.
Yeah,
And also,
yeah.
are there any limitations on the numbers of individuals that we can accommodate via that Zoom platform?
Attending? None. And there can be as many attendees as you have members, and we hope they all come, which is more than a place-based annual meeting. So this may be an opportunity, especially, you know, we'll have a sign-in process for you, so you know which of your members have indeed joined. I suppose there could end up being some interlopers, and maybe that you can ask them to join after the meeting. Maybe that's a good membership recruitment. Maybe we'll get some shoppers, you know, dropping into the business meeting. Obviously, at an annual meeting, anybody can really drop in. We don't take membership attendance. So, so we will provide that. We'll support it, and you'll know who's there. And there can be as many in the audience, as it were, as will be true of the sessions we are Zooming from the annual meeting on the 17th through the 21st. And, you know, we know the sizes. I suppose the largest SIG is about 900.
Almost
900, and that's close to the smallest division, and then divisions go up to roughly 5,000 or so, maybe a little bit more than 5,000. So we're going to, of course, offer this to divisions as well. Actually, we even extended for this call, not knowing how many, not this call, but for our open calls, I think our own license was due to 1,000, right?
Right now, 1,000. It used to be 500.
License 500, and now it is
1,000.
1,000. So just even for the calls, even though we were in and around with sign up 500 or attendance in and around, we had maybe 800 in sign up. Each call has been roughly 500. But in anticipation of, we didn't know how many would distribute themselves, of now what looks like 1,500 attendees across the 3 open calls, we increased our license from 500 to 1,000, at least through the end of April, I think.
April 10th.
Yeah, April 10th. April 10th?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully by then we'll be live, but we'll do what we need.
Yeah.
So none of you would have a call that's more than 1,000, so that's where it is now.
So Felice, we've had some questions about travel stipends for graduate students, travel awards.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday in the SIG call, and that's under the agenda under awards. We talked about that yesterday on the SIG call, and we talked about that with divisions. And there was a shared sense, I suppose, in thought for what was my kind of own inclination about this, is that there's, well, the cost of, these are not awards, not monetary awards for being honored. These are essentially the travel awards. I think the typical encumbrance across SIGs and divisions is upwards of 150,000, right? Is that right? For the travel, Nathan? Yeah.
That's about that.
And then of course, those who bear that encumbrance are the divisions and the SIGs and what you've offered and what you provide. There isn't a place-based meeting. That support was intended for that purpose. We are hoping, and we have on the micro annual meeting site, there's at least up to date as of yesterday, information about what airlines are doing. A week ago, we knew the cancellation fees, at least domestically, would apply. We knew that some airlines were even, don't quote me, but I suppose you can, additionally draconian, meaning in what yet hadn't been, had been twice over declared as states of emergency by the mayor and the governor, but where CDC and the World Health Organization was yet silent. There were any number of airlines that would charge a cancellation fee and you had to go to the same destination. Well, that's not helping anybody. Now there's been a tremendous amount of liberalization about that. Some airlines aren't charging cancellation fees. Some are saying you can rebook for any destination. So we're hoping the travel encumbrance, by the time that, I'm going to say, council makes the decision, might essentially, there may just be a waiver of that requirement. If that's the case, there really isn't anything that's even though some of you set fixed amounts, it's based on an average notion of reimbursing for something. It's not a gift, it's not an honorarium, but it wasn't the award, which many of you have monetary awards, but it is average assessment of what you can contribute as a reimbursement. Many SIG leaders have different views about, and maybe changing views because of the changing reality of the actual debt incurred typically by graduate students, sometimes early career scholars. The division VPs also, even as recently as last night when they had their only call, and all 12 divisions were on that call, had struggled, and we're struggling, I'm struggling with it, and when we struggle, we at least reached the decision, and I advised, and we got, I think, general support on the SIG call, is that the last thing we want is to pit SIGs or divisions and SIGs kind of against each other. Well, this division did this, well, G did this, but H didn't, and this SIG did this, and the other one didn't. So we think there needs to be a common decision. We're one organization, we're having one annual meeting, we're all in this together, we're creating it together, we're participating together, and so council will need to reconvene virtually for so far about 3 or 4 decisions that need to be AERA wide, and I anticipate that would be maybe by the end of the week next week. There's a process for council for convening a council meeting that first everyone needs to, that's virtual and not place-based. I suppose that'll change with new ways of delivering, but our requirement as a nonprofit organization that's incorporated is that before the highest decision-making body can convene in a way that isn't place-based, whether they join the call or not, there has to be unanimous agreement that that can be done. So we have these 2 steps. We have to have unanimous agreement that this can be done, and we need to at least set a date that maximally will meet, if not all, close to all of the council members. We were very fortunate in our meeting last Thursday night that really only a few, happily a few who already participated in the executive board, but we essentially needed an email proxy that we could do that. So that takes what might just seem like, hey, why don't you do it on Monday and make these decisions? That process, in order for us to be in conformance, and these kinds of things are closely monitored by our auditor every year, and I'm sure will be this year as much as any other year, because we still have to emulate the the best practices for nonprofit governance, and we want to as an organization. Other questions?
There's been a couple questions about catering charges, making sure that nothing will be charged to the SIGs.
Yes, nothing will be charged to the SIGs, and we believe AERA should not be penalized by any of these properties. But if AERA is penalized by these properties, I may need a decision above me, but I'm 99.99999% sure that we will not pass those costs to units, because our food and beverage commitment to the hotel is not unitized. It is part of how you make a meeting go. We get the space, well, we rent the space based on a food and beverage commitment, and happily the activities that you do are costs that are essentially meeting that commitment. But if we don't make that commitment, we are not passing that along to you. So just don't worry about that at all. I'm glad you raised it, but don't worry about that at all. Yeah. And we actually do not feel we have a legal liability. This is a national pandemic. We've got good contracts. We were ahead of the curve in anticipating it. Being ahead of the curve should not make for any greater legal liability. We think that we were wise and on the leading edge a week ago today. And the fact that the World Bank, the World Health Organization, or the CDC, or the proclamations now being issued by more governors, although the governor had spoken in California. I can't say that they all, it's not, what is that investment company? I won't give them a free plug, but we all know it, at least in the United States, we all know it when X investment company speaks, everybody listens. So we're not saying AERA's responsible conduct has driven what's happening, but the fact that we step forward wisely, we do not believe should put us in a penalty situation.
So Felice, can you talk a bit more about how program chairs and chairs will know which sessions will be presented live, which will be presented asynchronously?
Yes. So envision that you are now in, and there'll be some skids that say, welcome to the AERA 2020 virtual conference. And then there'll be a page to register, to pay nothing. It's all free, attending and anything else, attending what presented. That there'll be a skin that will have a registration portal and other kind of information. That, for example, we are going to provide our ombuds program virtually, and the two ombuds persons who provided for the program place space will be available through their own protected access and will have availability. So some general information, just like you see in the beginning of the program, will be visually available as the beginning of the virtual program. When you enter the portal, if you could imagine and are looking at Nathan, that Nathan will be, the words will be, and there will be a visualization of something that says AERA paper gallery. And you look at where I am sitting, and there will be something that says AERA theater. And in the AERA paper gallery will be hopefully up to and all. Recognize some might choose not to participate in this annual meeting, just like some decided to withdraw from coming to San Antonio, or for other reasons have already withdrawn even after acceptance, that they didn't realize that they were going to fortunately become parents and very along in that process, or that there was another kind of family activity or major opportunity, or they were going to become an editor of a journal, or they were going to be finishing their dissertation in May. and couldn't come to the meeting, so there's a certain amount of attrition. So there will be some attrition, but we hope very little attrition. That's why we've gone full max from thinking that we might only do the cliff notes originally, maybe 30 or 40 sessions. We've identified a way of everyone who had an acceptance in this submission system. We got an acceptance notification, I think November 1, or maybe it was October 31. There will be an opportunity to present. In the paper gallery, there will be all papers, whether you asked for and were participating in a paper session, a round table, or a poster. There will be, your paper will be presented in the paper gallery. It will provide information about where your paper, if it was to be part of a paper session, it will provide information about, in a drop-down screen, there's going to be a lot of drop-down screens, just like in All Academic. You can search by session type, so you can search by paper and unit. So if your SIG has 6 paper sessions, you can pull down the SIG menu and you can pull down the paper session, and those 6 sessions will appear, and your members will be able to, for each paper that is given across your paper sessions, across your roundtables, or your posters, you can either have it as just all papers, or you'll be able to filter so that the user experience will be able to filter. As recently as today, based on a great question that was sent to me by email last night, one of your SIG colleagues said, is there any way of having the chat discussion or Q&A across a cluster? And I said to this person, I think this is, with all the ways we're taking a modest platform and reinventing it, I think the developers won't be able to do that, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist because the platform we are using has a great deal of functionality, but its design is for electronic delivery at place-based meetings of single posters, and we are transforming that into a virtual platform for all papers. So the paper presenters are asynchronous in terms of uploading, and paper presenters will be provided with about 12 different kinds of options or schemas or templates for how they want to present their content. They can use simple versions. They could even just use, like Nathan is the picture, he could decide to just use a skin that says the name of his paper, and the second skin is Nathan, and he can talk and present that, if, you know, and I suppose in some roundtables, although many roundtables are just dying to have their laptops turned around and show something visually, he could just do that, or pick other templates. Animation can be uploaded. Video can be uploaded if someone is doing more artistic presentation, visualizations with or without animation, or has an in-depth interview or snippets that, of course, have been approved for public presentation, which is true of any presentation. With IRB approval, you're showing student-teacher interaction or student-parent interaction. That can be all one of your slides, so it has a lot of that functionality. And that paper presenters will also have a narration that is only available in voice, which is actually what I think I said in the March 6th, but even, we hope to embed video. The video can be in a screen, but once you flip screens, that would be lost. But there'll be a narration that's essentially the paper presentation. And we're feeling, just from our own experience with Ed Talks, and even in paper sessions where we allow up to 10 minutes, but if you're passing a poster session or in a roundtable, those kind of run 4, 5, 6 minutes, and we're going to kind of at least hold around the 6-minute limit for the narration. You will be uploading other kinds of things, like your name will be pre-populated in the screen about the presenting author. We do need to have a single presenting author. So we will be contacting presenting authors. Many times there's only one presenting author. We know sometimes 2 or 3, well, more 2 than 3. We're getting a report on that, but share. In this case, there can only be one presenting author, but all authors will be listed. Biographical information about that author. If you're on social media, you can post that. So that's kind of what that frame is. So it's asynchronous, except for the following. What is synchronous is that each author can have an online chat for a time to be scheduled by that author. It doesn't have to correspond with the specific savings time of the schedule, because persons will be in very different time zones. You can schedule 1, you can schedule 2, you can, I suppose, schedule 3. That would be a real-time chat about your presentation, and you can undoubtedly flip slides at that point. So it's not Zoom, it's not recorded. For those who don't want to use the chat function, you can use just a Q&A and get back to people on a Q&A. For those sessions, which would only be the paper sessions, some number have discussants. We're going to be asking each paper presenter to contact that discussant. And we're going to tell you these things not only because you would see these as paper presenters, but we want you also to encourage your presenters to decide and use those tools. So those sessions that have chairs, that chairs will be, not chairs, because there will be no chairs in the chairs that existed in roundtables or paper sessions will not participate in the paper gallery. But discussants, sometimes the chair and the discussant are the same person. Discussants can and cannot, and that's to be decided by every paper presenter in communication. And so discussant, paper presenter and a discussant might decide to go for it. So the discussant might add comments in a comment box or around the paper, or they might open by posting their comment in a threaded discussion. And all of those innovative alternatives in the chat, and when the chat occurs, or in the Q&A that doesn't have to be scheduled, will be left to the paper presenter. Now, if you move to, so the very good question that was asked to me last night is, could there be a single chat that somehow when you open that session that would then link to each single presentation? Could we create a single chat under the assumption and the hope that there are any number of discussants that do something that's a little bit more integrated, because the papers are organized not just randomly, but in some unit. And the roundtables that don't have discussants are organized in some conceptual connection, not just randomly, some more than less, but that's the ambition, and that was your ambition as SIG leaders and program chairs to do it that way. The platform doesn't offer that. We don't. We're 36 days out. There's not the opportunity. We've got to do what we can do well and excellently. And so I said I would check. I did. It was one of my first questions this morning when our technology innovators were on the phone. And as I suspected, we're going to actually, even though doing that common cross-paper chat or even Q&A is not possible, what then, however, led us to do is to have drop-down screens that can search and then divide by the paper sessions at the unit level, the roundtable. So it's not just a paper gallery, but it's a paper gallery that can cascade, that can be available as a single paper gallery, can be available by all of your units, and can also drill down, so it's like a 2 by 2 by 2 table, can also drill down to the type of session. And I'm really pleased that I have to actually go back to our SIG colleague who made that suggestion, because it got my creative juices going, not just about the paper session, but hey, if we could do this, which I had my doubts, but if we could do it, we would, and if we could do it, we'd of course do it in a threaded way for the roundtables. It's not possible, but now we're at least offering a little bit more than we thought of 24 hours ago. Thanks to this great question from one of your SIG leader colleagues. So if I am the theater, all of the session submissions that you accepted, now we recognize that some SIGs accept more sessions and some SIGs less, some are more heavy on paper sessions, some not, some have larger allocations and have more of a balance between the two. The very same is true of divisions. Some have more paper sessions, some have more paper submissions that they created into sessions. Some have more session submissions. All of the session submissions from the competitive program and from the invited program, meaning the presidential, and from committees, that's many of which are also have an open window and a competitive peer review process. All of the session submissions, whether through the competitive program, which is 95% of the program, better than that, and all of the invited sessions, 40 in the presidential program, will be in the theater. And if you're invited to the theater, we hope that all of those sessions make, and there's about 700 of those sessions. And those are the sessions that will be live web streamed on the Pacific time in the program. Those will be recorded and then available on demand as a post product, so that anyone within any time zone will be able to see them. They will have an audience Q&A, during the audience participation time, just as this call will have, and that's virtually the way we envision the virtual meeting. The backbone of this, which I emphasized yesterday, both in the individual calls and yesterday to the SIG leadership and our division leadership, is to help us nurture this happening, to collaborate with us as leaders in kind of encouraging those to recognize that this modality is really new, is really special. All of those presentations will be as authentic a presentation as if we were in the satellite. If we call the online virtual meeting, State 51, we're going to be up there, we're live. And if there's the maximum engagement, we have provided a virtual platform that accounts for maximum feasible participation. And we actually hope for, a turnout that's as close to 100% as possible. And we know we rely on you to help reinforce the value of having this meeting together. We are extending the final paper upload. I think everyone, or I want to read things that are embedded in my kind of head here may not be as embedded. This is my daily life and not your daily life. So I want to say two things. One, that the basic rule is that the paper submitted to the annual meeting that has been reviewed, if no other paper is submitted, that paper is the final paper. But we have the opportunity, and the portal is open up through March 20th, for those who want to put in a final or revised paper. That varies by field. For many, the submission in July, the first week of July, if I remember correctly, is the final paper. For other specialties and methodologies and modalities, there of course a huge amount of uploading of a final paper that is the presentation paper. We will extend that deadline, and that will be announced, and it probably it won't be trivial. It won't be a day or two, and it won't be the day before the meeting because everything has to talk. And we've got to connect all of this, but it will be, I would say, a week. Might be a couple of days, more than a week, it won't be less than a week. In that time, we are going to really encourage not only uploading the final paper, but checking off, and here's where you can help, checking off the author's willingness to have that paper available in the online paper repository. For those of you less familiar with the online paper repository, we get about 3,000, so 3,000 of the 7,000 there through that checkoff. We want to expand that. It is an asset. Right now, this is a voluntary activity, not like in some of our own early career days when it was required to give a paper. You brought 25 papers to that paper room. Those papers were sold and anybody could pick them up. And if you ran out of a paper and you got a little postcard in the mail that said, "I'd like your paper," you sent the paper. And then there'd be "do not quote or cite without the author's permission." These are works in progress. These are important intellectual contributions that can, and we really encourage you to share them. They will receive and do receive for the last 2 years a DOI. These are citable products. The metadata are connected to these papers. They are date and time stamped, and not that we should assume, in terms of responsible conduct, a lot of bad apples that misappropriate content, but I will say that there's no reason to believe that content is more misappropriated from working papers than actually from published papers, which we hope is low incidence. But these are working papers. You own the copyright. We say very clearly, or you continue to have the copyright. We say very clearly, these are works in progress. It's part of the versioning scholarly process. For all of those papers that check off a willingness to be in the online paper repository, there will be a pull-down screen that says paper available, and if it's available, it'll go yes to the online paper repository, and you will be part of a broader community worldwide of having your work recognized and cited. We will authenticate as a participation anyone who participates in a session delivered online or a paper delivered online, irrespective of whether the paper presenters decide to share their paper or not.
The police, we're getting a little short on time. There's a lot of questions in the queue. There's been a couple questions about accessibility and in terms of both the sessions as well as business meetings and whether accessibility services will be provided.
For those who requested accessibility services for their session, that will be provided in the delivery of the live session. We are exploring, which would be a post product, whether we can add, we can't do it in real time, but whether we can add
Closed caption.
Post capturing on the Zoom modality. We're going to have special instructions for the theater as well as for the paper presenters around the level of volume of doing the voice, and also any sound coming from the animation. We will also have for users how at the desk visual presentation can be expanded at the desk and sound can be amplified. Our platform inventor has been working on a product to amplify visually their platform so that all of the papers, as we know, just like any other PDF, you can open it up, or, you know, you can look at it transparency and at your desk do it. But we wanted the option, as some web pages have, to be able to see things in larger motif. And they've been working on a product that they hope will be available in the end of May. That was just their own production schedule, but would not be available by April 17th. That would really be tailored. It would be a visual product, rather different from, it would be a kind of a dual visualization that those with challenges in terms of sight could go into that paper gallery intended for those with visual challenges. That will not be available until the end of May, but we were, whether it's May or June or July, and I'm not saying they run behind, because actually we have found them running ahead, not behind. But that will be available, but they will make that a post product and I suppose, I don't want to say re-enter, but reprogram everything in the paper gallery so that it's available in other motifs. So I believe by sometime, you know, I don't want to call it summer because we recognize northern and southern hemisphere, but sometime in the July-August span, we'll be able to make that conversion.
So there have been some questions about what do SIGs need to communicate to presenters, or is that something that AERA will take care of? And do they need to certify that the people will still be participating in the meeting? Who's going to be taking care of those details?
So we're going to do the reach out on who's participating. We do know that for a normal meeting, that often you're informed and we're not informed. The ideal would still be to the integrated AERA, so that all academic can change and the app can change, or in this case, the virtual platform. So we are going to go out to all paper presenters and all chairs and session organizers. So what we're going to, and we will provide you with, those fact sheets will be posted, but I think we'll provide and try to develop some additional, when I say we need your kind of support to, you know, which has been extraordinary. I shouldn't say support, we're kind of co-authoring this together. So your part, you know, so some co-authors take the lead on looking at the ethnographic data, and some are stronger on maybe the statistical analyses, and there's some who just write better. So your part of our co-authorship together is that we'll try to do that heavy lifting, but we'll need you to, because you know your members, you know your fields, you know your specialties, to really kind of be an additional, you know, kind of. There might be something that popped up yesterday is there might be 2 or 3 of you who are designated for. We're going to have lots of places where people can ask questions and send emails, but to kind of reinforce, you know, let's do it. Let's try to participate. And so you'll be kind of a second flank collaborator in ensuring or helping, or if you see that there's a lot of fade out or which we're not expecting, but if you see that, I don't know, that those who are more, you know, have had more years of a career and further along and are less comfortable with these modalities, they need a little additional nurturing, and we need to jump on the phone with some number of session organizers or chairs. We'll do that. So we'll both hope you could be our collaborators in making this successful. But you won't have to, you're not doing training, you're not doing monitoring. We'll do all that outreach for you. And if we see by unit that we're seeming to get some drop off, we will, you know, we'll let you know and encourage you to help us. But all the help you can get, we'll try to do some help guides for SIGs and divisions. Divisions ask the same question. It's better for us to have common messaging to see what's happening, and also to provide something that, you know, you shouldn't have to invent yourselves or 160 times when we'll only have to invent once and, you know, work with you in doing it as well as we can. And if you see something that makes no sense when you're reading these fact sheets, you know, come to us and say, my gosh, no, you guys have missed the boat. We need to know A, B, C, and D. Nathan,
You're on mute.
you? So if everyone,
Sorry.
I think we have 140 or so. If you guys want to run longer, we're happy to run another 15 minutes or so. We did yesterday with our SIG leaders. You're our leaders, so we want to work with you.
That's actually what I was saying while I was muted, so perfect. We have a question about whether SIGs can do events on their own. For example, if they were planning a mentoring session, is that something they can just do on their own through their own Zoom platform?
Are we talking about if we're talking about the pre-conference events, those mentoring events? That's what I think we are, and I think we count about 20. Is that right, Nathan?
Yes.
In the program. There's 20 from the SIGs, and there's 50 or 60 from divisions, right? I think, more or less.
Yes.
So, or I think we have about 70 in total, maybe a little bit more than that. So it's 50 and 20 or so. These are pre-events that we aren't, we just have to work on opening the meeting and getting everybody kind of pulling at that same oar to be doing 50 additional events that week. And we also think a few things. One, doing it will probably morph in modality. That's why we're doing 9 courses and not 30 courses, because the dominant modality is web streaming. The dominant modality is not breakout sessions or one-on-ones. The dominant modality is call in and not face-to-face interaction. So those courses will have, the 9 will have some reinvention. These 70 we included, like the travel stipends, should be a collective decision, and that we're interested in your view right now or via email. And indeed, I provided my individual email for you all, which is flevine@aera.net. Many of you have it, many of it, but use it. We want to know you're thinking about that, knowing there's 20 of them and 50 sitting elsewhere. In preliminary discussion with the VPs, there was a range of views of whether we, add a week or add a common time for a mentoring, a separate AERA mentoring conference where these 70 could take place. So this is what's going to happen functionally. There's a general sense that it was something offered by AERA. It should not be offered offline, if AERA decides to do it as a collective activity. And when I say AERA, that's not Felice Levine. That is one of the topics we'll take to council to decide. If we decide to offer it as a common product, meaning that we have a mentoring conference several days and that it's on our platform, hosted on our platform, branded on our platform, each of you will be able to select times like the business meeting, and that we'll try to do that in an integrated way. If AERA should decide not to do it, well, and I am reinforced every day by how many SIGs are doing in addition to the annual meeting, and we encourage it. Very innovative programming of a variety of sorts, and divisions too. Some divisions have had separate meetings, but they're branded as division activities. They're not branded as university activities. Some have used AERA's offices and conference center. We have a convening center and electronic capacity here. So even though, just as your SIG might underwrite that, including cost-wise, if AERA delivers it, AERA will be providing it. If we decide you can go on your own, we still would like to offer the services for your, but not the free services, to enable you to make it happen, but still be sure that it has the the branding. We're not going to charge you for it. I don't mean that. We would make money, but just as if you have a dinner, you pay for the dinner. If you have something that has costs that we would additionally encumber, the rest of the meeting, the conference and all the things all the Zoom calls and everything, if this becomes an add-on product, that would be part of the AERA annual meeting. If it's something that we offer through using support, you would just you would just do it just as you might do all the independent things that many of you are doing now. But don't start by doing it, because our first notion is the AERA annual meeting. We're all one, and we're all part of the same organization. The presidential session shouldn't go offline alone, or my AERA-wide sessions, or the international sessions, or the committee sessions, or the divisions or SIGs, whether it's the adjunctive curricula, the co-curricular, the mentoring activities, or the program. We've designed this platform for the program, the business meetings, 9 of the courses. But if we need this additional component and council decides we should provide it, if council decides we should provide it and thinks that what makes the most sense and something the SIG Executive Committee will discuss as well, and the chair of the SIG Executive Committee sits on council, if that makes the most sense, well, do it. And there's lots to be said for doing it, particularly if you all, the 15 of you, have an interest in doing it. If it seems to be some would like it more than others, some could just as well roll the programming over to next year and have it as a pre-cook that you've already planned, and there's not that much depth of interest, then it's less likely that it be an organized product, and council would just say, okay, let's not see that as part of the extended conference, but of course, provide the kind of support that each of you can do it alone.
So before we have much more attrition, can you very briefly tell folks where they can find the recording of these sessions, the fact sheets, and then what we're planning on, any questions that we did not get to today in the live Zoom meeting?
We're trying to, well, the 3 sessions that were open and had roughly 1,500 attendees will shortly, we're trying to get at least one more fact sheet up, will be on the micro site. So that's within, not 2 hours, but certainly 24 hours away, maybe 36 at the most. And those, anyone can listen to. Many of the same questions repeated themselves, recognizing that when I was speaking on Tuesday, we've had a lot of refinement since. I've just described one that really came overnight, meaning being able to cascade the paper gallery so that one could sort from all the papers to the sort by unit and sort by what was the original presentation modality. So I don't mean that you should listen to the 3rd one and not the first one, because they're all only an hour, but you'll see many similar things. We haven't quite figured out where to put the SIG discussions in, the SIG leadership discussion, which has been recorded in SIG only space, because it really was, it's part of the leadership family having a conversation. So we weren't putting that in the public portal. All of the questions, though, that's why I gave you my email. If when you're seeing these fact sheets that come up and guidance in the next 3 or 4 days, or you're just thinking you're seeing nothing, that when we post the questions, you're not seeing any question that really meets your needs, that's where you can send an email to me, and we're going to try. We're iterating these and trying to develop fact sheets, including for you, that kind of hit the aggregate, kind of the centers of gravity that are on your mind, and including letting you know when we don't know things, like we're not sure of exactly the final date for the upload of the paper. We're not sure of exactly the final date when we need the paper presentations, but we know it's not the 16th. It's probably at least a week before, and that will be after the final paper upload. But we'll have a schedule of dates once we know from our collaborator technology groups what's feasible. Because the worst thing to do is to say something and then not meet that deadline, or to say something that gave presenters more time than we really can give you and open the meeting day 1. Any last one there, Nathan?
We're about at 3:10. I think maybe just to close, but just very quickly mention again what will be live Zoomed and what will be asynchronous uploads, because I've gotten 3 or 4 requests for clarification on that.
The live Zooms will be all accepted session submissions to all units through the session submission part of the submission process that were reviewed and accepted as session submissions. Also, all invited sessions, which tend to be dominantly the presidential. Some divisions have invited sessions, and some SIGs have invited sessions from their session allocation. All of those will be Zoomed and will be recorded for access on demand. Those are therefore synchronous, and then of course on demand they become asynchronous. But the actual theater in which you can go to the theater and see Oklahoma Live or whatever it is, the Symphony Live, the Boston Pops, you can go and see it live, and if you couldn't make it, you could go and listen to it on demand. The paper gallery is essentially asynchronous, will be uploaded in advance, is essentially asynchronous except for those who schedule times for the paper presenters for chat. And that will be synchronous because that will be in real time. And that real time will permit chat, and I hope at least drives those who are looking at it and chatting. Someone could go to slide 3 and see it. In that sense, the two join in. I don't want to oversell it, but it's a semi-synchronous modality if paper presenters choose to schedule online chats, and they will have their opportunity to schedule, I would think, at least 2 sessions that would be scheduled times, and those are synchronous. But the actual visual product is asynchronous, absent conjoining the chat room. Hope that helps. We know it's a lot to assimilate, we've been thinking through all the detail, and you're all hearing it for the first time, maybe the second time, if you're a repeat player to one of the sessions, and our clarity. Nathan said to me earlier, if we just did this every day, the last one's definitely going to be the best. So I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to the first one, but we're getting, and I'm sure I'm getting better at articulating. We're refining what we're doing in real time, and I think we're getting better at articulating, therefore, what it's going to look like. And, left to, planning a virtual online satellite meeting of any sort 6 or 9 months in advance, subject to the huge expense, of course, of any of these innovations, of course, costing a lot more. Our desire is not only for maximum feasible presentation, but maximum feasible synchronous time, recognizing that there's a limit to how much synchronous time will have synchronous viewers, given that it's a worldwide product, and there's, at the moment, 40 concurrent sessions. If every paper session were delivered in synchronous time as Zoom sessions, it would mean 70 or 80, and our failure to be able to monitor that effectively, to be able to support when sound goes out effectively, so it would decay the meeting. Papers are, after all, combined into sessions, so they came in as papers, and it would not only double the cost, it would decay the product. It might or might not decay the number of viewers, because how many viewers, even making it a free product, how many viewers can we optimistically expect? So this is about not only real time in a variety of ways, but also this will be the first kind of annual meeting of national scope that will have all of the programming of those who choose to participate. It will be preserved as an annual meeting that everyone can go back to and see it and say, oh my God, is that what I looked like in my early career stage? And was that what I was saying? So And that's pretty good, you know. I knew I loved this line of work. So we hope you all love this line of work and join with us.
We're at about 3:15, Felice, so we should probably wrap up at this point. Do you have any final thoughts to share?
Yeah, I think there was that question about also, you know, I told you how we could handle the questions, about how you could contact me. I would not be shocked, and I said that, I sort of said it on the spot yesterday, that we, you know, said somewhere along the line, and I don't mean, you know, April 12th, but sometime, we're doing a lot of this virtual calling, and it's taking valuable, it's a valuable thing to do. We're going to need to move into a very heavy production schedule because we've got to give our innovators information so that they can create this portal. We've got to develop skins, we've got to develop fact sheets, we've got to develop guides. So we might not have another set of SIG virtual call-ins in the next 5 days, maybe not in even the next 7 days, but I'm going to presume we'll all be back on the phone together, and we'll have a lot more out, and then we'll be able to look at the next set of issues that we face, and we really value how many of the leadership in both of these calls. I think we were running roughly 170 to 180 in each, and you know, you've stuck with us, and we stuck together. You know, we are a family, and we're kind of like, and thank heaven we're a functional family, and that's probably been the most heartening part of that. You know, we all know about dysfunctional families, and I'm so gratified to see how we've come together as a functional family to create something together that's going to resound to those, and to the benefit of those who needed to benefit from annual meeting participation, and for those who never even thought that this was a possibility to engage in education research at the level at which we hope to deliver and plan to deliver it. So thank you, really. I wish I could see you all, and I suppose in today's parlance, you know, kind of hit the elbows together, be safe, take cautions, and know that we are one in what we're trying to do together. Thanks a lot. And I want to clap all of you for, not all of you are still here, but virtually all of you who for participating. Thanks.